We have the better situation because sex work is legalized, but only the activity of sex work is legalized, and the working conditions of sex workers are not regulated. I mean, we have the problem, other correlating laws haven't changed since the introduction of the German Prostitution Act. I mean, legalization is a good step, but it's not enough because our working conditions, the conditions of our sex worker haven't changed. And what I would love to ask you, are there some colleagues from New Zealand here? But because I would love to share our experience. Our problems are completely different. We have to negotiate with the politicians to change other relevant laws, like the building code, which is responsible for minimum standards for working conditions and something like that. Could you recommend me somebody or yes?
I'm really pleased to have that question. I'm not from New Zealand, as you can tell. I speak English, but I'm from very close to New Zealand. There's one thing I want to say about New Zealand, the New Zealand model. It's not well publicised. The fact is that it is still illegal to sell sex without a condom in New Zealand. People are not being told that. And that's the one offence that remains on the books, is the public health aspect of it. So in fact, any sex worker can be arrested if she has sex without a condom. We're here in the United States under these dreadful circumstances. I don't know if people know that I was refused entry into the United States to attend a meeting of the Global Commission on HIV and the law, ironically enough. Can you imagine what it's like? One moment you're home writing about it and the next minute you're standing at the immigration desk living it. But in the United States context is very different to Europe and to Australia. And here in the United States, the agenda is very much about stopping the arrests, because sex work is actually illegal here. In the European context and the Australian context and New Zealand, and well, let's leave New Zealand out for the moment, but in most of the places, sex work itself is not illegal, only activities associated with it are illegal. So the challenges are different. In fact, what I've been saying for many years is that the removal of the criminal law is a necessary but not a sufficient condition for bringing about the circumstances we need for sex workers' human rights to be respected and for sex work to function as labour. And Germany is the perfect example. Going halfway doesn't work. And I understand why in the United States, when you're nowhere, I know that sounds awful, but when the law is so bad that a slight improvement looks better. In fact, Germany and New Zealand and Australia and a lot of these other countries prove that just removing some of the laws doesn't fix all the problems. And the problem it doesn't fix in particular is around public health and the oppressive public health rules and the fact that you can't work safely. You can't, and I'm going to be talking on Thursday, that's the main thing I'm going to be speaking about in my plenary speech, where what I'm going to be saying is that we don't need a legal framework that gets condoms or any other gadget or service to sex workers in dangerous places. We need a legal framework that gets sex workers out of those dangerous places and into legal ones. Now, Germany has, all these countries that have half decriminalised sex work, that have a half legal situation, the sex workers are not in legal workplaces. You don't. And that's the law reform we need to aim for. And we're all, each of our countries, it's a different, as I say, a different discussion in Europe, and I'd be very happy to have it. But I just want to make that general comment to the American activists that decriminalisation is, and I'll say, I'm sorry to be repetitive, decriminalisation is necessary, but it's not sufficient. It's step one. After they remove the laws, then we can get serious about using all the other tools that have liberated people from slavery, from exploitation, from all sorts of dread. You know, we had children in mines a century ago all over the world. That's been stopped. What stopped it? Labour laws, unions. Those mechanisms will come into play when we get rid of the law. So while we're all aiming for decriminalisation, that's great, but that's only the start of the task. And I think, you know, it's such a tragedy that we don't have the New Zealanders here, that we don't have the Germans in here. The Swiss, I'm going to stop because I'm over time. Switzerland has decriminalised sex work, and there's a dreadful situation. You cannot get a job in Geneva. I've got friends in Geneva. You can't get a job unless you're prepared to do unprotected anal, vaginal and oral sex. You literally can't get a job. So that, if that's what we're aiming for with decriminalisation, I don't think so. So all I can say is I'm very sorry, very, as we all are, that we don't have the full contingent of sex workers all over the world here. I'm from Melbourne. In 2014, the conference is going to be in Melbourne, Australia, and I personally promise you it's going to be different. And I personally invite each and every one of you to Australia, and we're going to really give it a push then in 2 years' time. And you'll be able to have all of those conversations with marvellous sex workers from all over the world. We really do have an impressive movement now. So see you in 2 years' time, and thank you. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank the American sex workers and to congratulate you all for your world, for your vision here, and for the effort that you're making under circumstances that are really, really difficult, because we've had these networking zones with the whole gang from every country, and I'm almost going to cry. It's tragic.
Sure. I'm also going to shamelessly plug Cheryl's new book on medical technologies and the sex trade. We actually have them on the table over there. If they're not on the table, I have a whole suitcase full of them, so please pick them up. And she's going to be in the networking zone, in the sex worker networking zone, speaking with Sid at 2 p.m. on Thursday.
Okay, let me